Hannah, and I've got some new screwdrivers. I bought myself a new set of screwdrivers. They're only cheapo ones from B&Q, and they do come on this rather nice hanging rack. And you've got 3 different kinds of screwdrivers in here. You've got your Flathead, your Phillips, and your Pozidriv. I bought it, and then I started thinking, why are there 3 different kinds of screwdrivers in the world? Why are they different? And I know there's different screws, but how do you know which is which? So let's start with the Flathead. I've got 3 different kinds of flatheads in here, 3 different sizes. And you'll know, if you've ever worked on an old building or an old piece of furniture, that flathead screws, not only were they all the rage, but they were the only rage, they were the only option. You'll also know that if that screw gets rusty, it is an absolute bugger to get out. And if the slot on the screw isn't deep enough, or if your screwdriver isn't in there properly, it can slip out of the screw head and break your screw or damage the head of the screw. Nowadays, you tend to find flathead screws used for decorative purposes in furniture or in light fittings or your electrical sockets. The flathead screwdriver, however, I think is a really vital tool to have in your toolbox. Opening paint tins, get stones out of your boots, getting weeds out of the garden, use it as a lever. If it's sharp enough, you can use it as a makeshift chisel, an ice pick, back scratcher, or just as a stirrer for your vodka and orange. Now this packet has got 2 Phillips screwdrivers in there. I don't know if you can see, it's marked on the top which is which. 2 different sizes of Phillips. In the 1930s, John Thompson decided that the flathead screw wasn't really doing it, so he came up with the idea of this crosshead screw, and the crosshead screw allowed better connection with the drivers, and you could tighten them much more than the flathead without the screwdriver slipping out or camming out of the screw head. He clearly didn't have a very good social media team though, because his idea nobody wanted to buy his idea, so he sold it to Henry Phillips, who was much better a businessman and managed to market that to big industry, and it's remained and kept his name ever since. One of the design features of the Phillips screwdriver is to actually allow the screwdriver to slip out or cam out of the screw head if it gets over tightened. And this is because the Phillips screwdriver was invented to be used in factories where machine powered screwdrivers were being used, and you didn't want to over tighten the screw, because if you did, the screws got broken, and it's a sod to get a broken screw out of something, especially if you're in a factory setting. You're on a production line, you haven't got time to be messing around with broken screws. But sometimes you don't want it to slip out, you want it to be able to be super tight. The Pozidriv was invented to allow more torque or more tightening to be applied to the screw without it slipping out or damaging the screw head. If you can see the difference between the 2 screw heads, you'll see that the Pozidriv screw has actually got extra slots inside it, and the Pozidriv screwdriver has got extra ribs in the driver head, which allows for better surface contact between the driver and the screw, which allows you to get better contact, and there's less likelihood of it slipping out. In fact, I just put that in there and it's slightly magnetised, but that's not falling out at all. So out of those 3 different kinds of drivers, which one is best? Flathead, Phillips or Pozidriv? Well, it kind of depends. It depends on what you're doing, what job it is you're doing. If you're upcycling an old piece of furniture and you're using flathead, and then it's better to be using flathead screws. If you're doing up your electrical socket or tightening up a light switch, you want your flathead in there because that's the screw that is most appropriate for it. It doesn't need to be over tightened. If you're working on a piece of wood or material like a raw plug in a wall where you don't need to put so much pressure on, you don't need so much torque, then Philip is your guy. You just need to make sure that the size of your driver is the same size as a screw head and that you've got them lined up nicely to avoid that cam out or that slippage. And if you're using a powered screwdriver or an impact driver, or you just really need to get that extra torque and tension in there, then the Pozidriv is going to be the best bet because you're less likely to get that slippage out. You just need to make sure that, again, your driver head matches the size of the screw head and that you can see that kind of star shape on the top of the screw head so that you're not using a Phillips instead of a Pozidriv. A Phillips screwdriver will fit into the head of a Pozidriv screw, but not very nicely. So there we are, 3 screwdrivers, 3 screws. Now we know. I hope you found this video useful. Let me know in the comments if you did. And you can subscribe to my channel, Make It, Do It, Mend It, for all things DIY and home maintenance. Thanks very much for watching. See you again. Cheers. Bye.